Welcome to What the Biz, where we talk about building successful businesses, balancing life, and all the WTB in between. With your hosts,
I'm Bridget Vector.
And I'm Dan Prochko. What's up? Thanks for joining in for another What the Biz. Really interesting episode today. Got a couple questions for you to start off here, okay? So if you're listening, here we go. Have you ever felt like your accountant coach or marketer or marketing partner just isn't quite getting it anymore? Like you're moving in a new direction. They're stuck on an old plan. Well, we're diving into it today and what to do about it, okay? But before we do, I want to introduce my co-host, Bridget Vector. How you doing?
Hello. I am doing
I feel like I went
great.
Sorry. Awesome. I'm like cutting you off because my brain is just like, I went into game show host mode, I realized there. But anyway, let me stop. How you doing? Hi.
Oh, everybody wins a prize today because we're on game show hosts.
You get a car and you get a car and you get a car.
No, I'm doing great. I sat in a really long business mastermind training yesterday, and I say really long because it started at 2. I hopped off at 8:00. Like that was 6 full hours. It was so good though. Like I feel really good about what I accomplished, but I realized like my brain in learning mode, like 6 hours is a lot. Like my brain was mush.
It is. No,
but it was really, really awesome. So I'm feeling energized today.
Nice.
Actually. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. 6 hours. I'm just trying to think. I've done some coaching sessions, 6 hours. And as the coach, I'm exhausted at the end of it. When I'm out, like Jenny looks at me and she's like, do you want to be left alone? It's like, yes, please. I want to be left alone.
I need a week-long vacation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's 3 days of this. So I have another session tonight and tomorrow. So we'll see if he goes like the full 6 hours again.
Wow.
So
that's nuts.
To be reported on. It's pretty impressive how he coaches. But yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot. That's really, really a lot. I don't know. I'm messing with my glasses. They're uneven. So for those watching on YouTube, you can see I'm going to have like uneven glasses. Anyway. Okay. Look. All right. Enough banter. Enough all of that. Okay. Let's dive in because we were talking about this topic and we thought this was a topic about how to fire your vendor. And we were like, wait. There's a whole part before that has to happen first. And so look, we are going to get into a whole episode about how you cut ties with your vendor because we have seen things go horribly. Okay. But before we do that, we feel it's always a great idea to repair a relationship or even better, realign a great relationship. So if you're feeling like you're misaligned, you're not alone. Okay.
I think it's really common, and actually sitting in this yesterday, right? I'm sitting in this coaching program. I'm changing things, right? Like I'm revamping, I'm adding new offers, I'm like growing what we're doing. And I got to thinking about like, what partners do I work with that it would be really important for them to know this? Because it does happen all the time, right? Like we grow, we expand, we intake new things every single day. It could be even listening to this podcast, right? And it isn't that your vendors that you're working with are bad at what they do. You just haven't brought them into the room with you yet. Like they weren't there when you bought that course. They weren't there when you joined that mastermind, and they weren't there when you reimagined your vision during that 3-day retreat that you went on. So I think it's just bringing things back together with those trusted vendors that you already work with, because they really are part of your team.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not talking with them every day, or if they're not in your office all the time, or you're having daily, weekly meetings, then, there's a lot you haven't told them, and you're working on the last version of your business. It's not the new version that you're dreaming about today.
And it isn't that they want to be doing that, right? But they're doing that because you haven't updated them. And so this isn't about blame. It's just really about drawing attention to how fast the business world really moves. And especially for small businesses like ours and yours, it's just an ever evolving thing. And it's important to have your partners in place.
Yeah. The way I look at it is like, if you meet with your vendor, every 30 days, your business has evolved in that 30-day time frame, and they haven't come along with you. Meaning every 30 days, if that's when you're meeting, you have to realign to get into the new evolution of what's going on. because they haven't seen anything in the middle. They haven't been, like you said, any of those courses, masterminds, or just ingested any of the same things. I think it's really important here to even talk about, like, you've hired a vendor because you didn't want to hire someone internally, and so that vendor is a team member. And so if we're not communicating with them about what's going on, it's really like we're letting a team member down. They're hired because they are invested in you succeeding. I know I feel that way with every one of my clients. And so when we're not aligned, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I need to get aligned. I want you to succeed. And so it's really important to have those touch points along the way.
I think you bring up a great point there. So often, and we operate the same way, right? Like any of the businesses that we work with, we are fully invested in their success. Like we want them to succeed and we want to help them do that. But there is sometimes a breakdown in where business owners don't necessarily think to include us in communication or updates, and we can't read minds. Like I wish we could. Holy cow, we'd be in a totally different business. And we can't guess what people are learning or implementing behind the scenes. So I always tell our clients, like our best, like our quickest way to move forward is if we're in more frequent touch points with you, or we come up with a way to talk, like communicate differently. So I think just before jumping, you got to realign.
No, you definitely do. And I'd say it's really important to do this because it's really easy to end the relationship, but the work that's been put in to build a language, to build an understanding of mindset and how we communicate and all that takes a lot of time. And it doesn't matter if it's a new employee or if it's a vendor. I mean, it's going to take time either way. You don't shortcut that. So when you end this relationship where you've built all that up and the work is good and all we need is a realignment, it's actually more cost effective and it'll be more valuable to you to just realign and move forward in the better direction, so long as the capabilities are there, et cetera. So I think it's really great that we're jumping into this. And this first step is let's realign.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, I just want to say, like, before you ghost your partners and your vendors, those team members, right? Your CPA, your ads manager, whatever outsourced piece you have that realignment conversation. And it can sound something as simple as, hey, I joined this new program and it really got me thinking about the growth strategy of my business. Can we talk about how that impacts the work you're doing? Or, I've realized that I've been holding on to ideas that no longer fit where I'm going. Can I walk you through what shifted and maybe how that changes how we work together?
Yeah. I mean, it takes courage to do that. You can feel guilty. And I've had business owners come to me and say things like, I've had, they've left us because they're like, I'm sorry, I haven't been coming to meetings. I feel guilty. And so I'm going to go work with someone else. And I'm just like, wait, what? You're telling us we do amazing work and all this stuff, but you're leaving because you are having a hard time meeting. And so it's difficult when something changes on your end to tell someone, hey, we're going to move a different direction. That is difficult. It does take courage. There's no reason to feel guilty about it. That's totally normal. Businesses pivot. That's why the word pivot exists here in the business world. Is like we change direction because something is or isn't working, or we want to test something. And so we're going to pivot a certain direction. And it's all right. The thing is, most vendors, they want to meet you where you are. The thing is, we just need an invitation. They just want that. And I know that when I work with vendors, it's like, that's what they're like, yeah, we totally want to help you succeed. And the reason for that is because if I succeed, my vendor will succeed because they're the one helping me get to where I want to go. I'm gonna be super happy with them and continue working with them even longer.
Yeah, I think you hit it with vendors just need the invitation to be at the table more frequently. We call it the financial dream team on our side because we know when we can work directly with tax preparers, financial advisors, whoever our clients are working with on the financial side, when all the heads are together in one room and we all are rowing the boat in the same direction, it's better for everybody. And sometimes it does come to needing a new scope of service, but not a new vendor. So ultimately, realignment is much cheaper than replacement.
Yeah. And so I've alluded to some of that already, but there's some things that can happen when we don't have these conversations. Okay. I mean, we end up resenting our team, for following the instructions that were never updated. Okay. We end up feeling like we're overpaying for services that aren't moving the needle anymore. Not that we feel like we are, because if they're not moving the needle, we're just overpaying. And then, if we do end the relationship, like I said before, we're starting over with someone new without ever articulating what didn't work and giving them the opportunity to make that change. And then we have someone new that we have to work with and rebuild all of those relationships, all of that language, all of that rapport. And that's costly.
And this is really where momentum will die in your business. You're starting from scratch again, when really you just needed to have a reset conversation. And I think it's really important to recognize that this is also like an up leveling of leadership that business owners need to go through. Because if you don't ever figure out how to have those conversations and realign, you will be vendor hopping forever. Because you're always missing this piece and you're always going to be in this cycle. So this is a growth thing. This is like an up leveling of leadership.
If you can't communicate it, I do know some that just constantly hop. I'm constantly hearing stories like, oh, I just got to do this. Oh, I just got to do that. I'm just like, what was wrong with the other guys? Oh, they weren't blah, blah, blah. Did you tell them? And sometimes it's like silence, and I know what's going on there. It means like that communication wasn't happening, and that vendor had no idea of the expectation that was being put on them. So, yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a self-reflection moment to realize maybe we need to grow, right? So let's make this really simple for a realignment conversation can look like. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated, and really vendors expect this. Like, this isn't something that somebody would come to us and we would be like shocked. In fact, we are like, oh yes, like we needed to have this conversation so we know what's happening. So start out with gratitude. It can be as simple as, I appreciate what we've built so far, or I appreciate, what we have in place at this point. And then you share what has changed. So here's what I'm learning. Here's how I'm shifting. Here's what we're aiming for. Here's our new goals. And then you can move into a place where you can ask for input. Like, how do you think we can evolve together based on everything I just told you? This is where the moment of, I guess, like the big aha moment can come out of, right? So you've shared what you're doing. The vendor now has like visualize where you're going. And this is where they can share maybe some of their own hard truths. And I think the last part of this framework is, as a business owner, if we are looking to change our relationship with our vendors, we have to be open to hearing some hard truths. And it may be that even you need to show up differently in that working relationship too. So this is a moment where you can realign expectations, realign the services you're getting, maybe even redo some of the processes that are in place to work together. And ultimately, everybody should come out of that conversation in a much better place.
Yeah, no, I really love this. I do have one client that is actually communicating, fairly well on things. They are going through some coaching, some training, and they're updating their marketing. And they communicated with us like, hey, we're noticing that what's being made, through you guys isn't matching what we're doing on social. We like the results that we're seeing so far. We just want those things to align. And it was like, wonderful. Hey, let's have this conversation around what that means to align. And we've been able to make that shift. And so we're creating all new, graphics that align with that new brand guide, which we had to rebuild. That's what we had to rebuild. We didn't have it. We didn't know there was a new brand guide. So love it. We get to learn, we get to shift along with them. Now, look, sometimes we get it, sometimes a provider might say, hey, look, this isn't a fit anymore, or we can't do that. And that's okay. All right. But the point is we need to rebuild and give that chance, because we've invested, I get the sunk cost fallacy. We don't want to get beholden to that. And that's where, like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. But if there are those capabilities and there is that ability, like, we shouldn't skip that chance to rebuild and to realign.
I think you brought up a great point there too. So when business owners are working with coaches or they're revamping things or they're working on things, I think it's also really important that you don't hold your partners to like an expectation that they can't meet. So what I
Yeah.
mean by that is while you're working on all these changes, you're revamping probably almost every day, right? Like you have different versions, different like the
Yeah.
branding guide, you might still be honing in your branding guide. So if those things are constantly changing, know that your partners are going to be moving and changing with you and it's not instant results. Like it's you're still working through the messy
Yeah.
middle, your vendors are still working through it with you. Like it isn't that they're going to have all the answers. So I think
And
it's
that's so different. And that's so different if you had a team member. Like if you as the owner, the only one doing that coaching, if you hired someone internally, they weren't in any of that coaching with you. You made these changes. And until you communicate that down, that change can't happen. And it won't happen. And there'll be a lag for it to happen even in that case too. So, that whole parallel of like a partner as a team member still holds in all of these examples.
yeah. So I think there's a big elephant in the room through everything that we've talked about. And it really is that sometimes your vendors are not the ones failing. It's that you are getting new ideas from every direction, which you should be. This is not like a fault or blame.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You should be growing and evolving, but you need to have a way to keep your vendors, those team members, in the loop.
Yeah, because if you don't, like we said, you're going to start questioning everything because, mastermind said X, your vendor is still doing Y. The issue is that you're just not aligned and you never brought them along.
And I don't think you ever need to choose between, those vendors that are team members of yours or your team and your next idea. I think it's just really important to have the structure in place, the communication methods in place, the check-ins, the whatever it is there so that you can consistently bridge that gap. No different than if you had, like a weekly check-in with in-house team members, right? If you are doing something that might require your vendors to check in weekly, maybe you have a temporary change to that service arrangement where you're like, hey, this is really important. Like we're doing these things. Can we utilize you more while we're implementing this for the next 3 months? And then we level back off again. I also don't think it's fair that anybody expect their vendor to engage more without having a change to the agreement or something in place.
Yeah. Because that's no
this is
different than a team member. Because if you give team member more responsibilities, a new role, they're going to expect a different type of arrangement anyway. It's no different. It's completely parallel. The only decision is, did I hire someone internal or did I hire someone external?
and they should all be treated with value in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were actually chatting, obviously, before this episode, because this topic is like, it is a big elephant that I think every vendor, every business owner goes through, and everybody ends up frustrated in some way because us as vendors, we want to help. We know we can help. Business owners are like, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to evolve. I don't understand why this is breaking. And you actually started laughing really heavily because there is sometimes a moment of self-reflection that business owners have to have. And I gave an example of somebody that we used to work with that actually made the comment to us that said, when you provide these extra services, and it was things we were not engaged to provide, but we had written proposals multiple times because we knew that's what they needed.
Yeah.
Well, it was said to us, like, when you start doing those things, then we'll look at changing the agreement to pay you for those things. And that philosophy is very backwards, which is why I wanted to bring up, like, your vendors are investing in you and you need to invest in them. Like, it's a shared partnership. We want to see every business succeed.
Yeah.
So
I would say that the fact that, like, you even brought up that fact shows we can do that and do this, or if a vendor says like, hey, I think we need to move this direction, I think that shows they're ready to, they want to, we're looking to expand or change that direction and do something better, to then say, I'll engage with that when you start doing it. I think that's exactly what just happened. Like that is that initiative right there. It is happening. We're here. It's kind of like, one, you wouldn't you wouldn't wait to pay someone to mow your lawn until, or you haven't even hired them to mow the lawn. They just showed up and mowed your lawn, and then you're going to pay them out of nowhere. Like that's kind of what that situation is. It's just really weird, And even when you think about an internal team member, if it wasn't communicated to them of an expectation of their role, the fact that they aren't doing anything, doesn't mean they can't ever do it. It has to be communicated and aligned, and so, yeah, that's the whole thing here. So look, if you're listening here and you're realizing, you're a few chapters ahead of the team supporting you, you really got to pause and just ask, have I given them the new map? So we've got an action step for you. Okay. Pick one person that you feel out of sync with. Maybe it's your coach, your VA, accountant, web team, marketer, etc. And just ask them for a 15-minute alignment call. Okay. It can really be that simple.
And if you're sitting in a place where you feel like you've grown so far that gap feels too wide and you need someone to meet you at this new level, I would say before you have the conversation to find a replacement, still give the benefit of that alignment call. Like you just never know how much can be bridged just by having a conversation, and people naturally avoid them, right? So business owners are naturally avoiding them because it can feel awkward. It can, it can just feel like a discomfort. But I think the discomfort means that you're pushing yourself to a new place in your leadership. And just go back to those 4 simple steps that I outlined for the framework. Start with the gratitude, just share what's changed, ask for their input, and be open to hearing the hard truths of maybe what needs to change. And if you still don't feel like realignment's going to work and that gap is still too big, Dan alluded to it, we're going to have an episode around just how to, I guess, professionally end those vendor relationships.
Yeah. Love it. I think it's a great place to end that topic and move into our What the Biz moment of the week. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So I've got one from social media. I see this a lot. So this isn't about a specific business, but it's about a practice. And I think many businesses have been part of these because it's a vanity piece. I'm sure you've been in Facebook groups and you've seen those posts that are like, hey, comment below your page and we'll do a follow for follow. Have you ever seen those?
Yep. It's typically posed as like, this is a great way to get like hundreds or thousands of followers within like an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, while that's true, it's all vanity, because I'll tell you what's really happening behind the scenes. When you do that in a group and that group say you're a cleaning company, it's always my favorite example, and you go into a group with other cleaning businesses and you say, we'll do follow for follow. Okay, what does that tell the algorithm? That you have all these cleaning businesses from across the country now following your cleaning business. What that tells the algorithm is that your page is for other cleaning businesses, not in your area. That's the signal that it's sending. Okay, so yes, your followers have gone up. Okay, but what ends up happening is that the algorithm is like, great, all of these followers are everywhere else. When you post something to your Facebook page, what social media does is it shows that post to a percentage of your followers. If those followers aren't in your area and their networks aren't in your area, then you've shot yourself in the foot to be found and build that awareness locally to where you're at. So it's just a horrible practice. It should die. I think it's a total fail. I really think it needs to go the way of the dodo bird. It is horrible. It is a really, really bad strategy because it just sends all the wrong signals.
That is right there, I think, is like one of the biggest gold nuggets, and everybody needs to take that and run with it, because it does. It breaks your business page and it no longer knows. So, and I'm even talking from if you are investing in ads, not just what you're posting, but like if you start investing in ads, it's still confused. Like that algorithm's like, what? Like I'm talking to all these business, like other cleaning businesses everywhere. Yeah, absolute fail.
Yeah. I see them once a week, sometimes multiple times a week in some of these groups. And I'm just like, oh God, please don't. Yeah. Please don't. Nobody comment, please. So anyway, That's my moment of the week. Don't do it. It's my marketing tip for you. Don't do it. It's bad for the algo.
So mine is actually coming from a survey that FreshBooks does. So FreshBooks is like a software for they do accounting, right? So it's kind of like a QuickBooks. But they do like a state of US small business kind of survey. And so they put out the findings from this, and I'm actually using this because, one, I think this is a great topic for us to talk about in a future episode, but it's also I guess a fail in general, in my opinion, of the trust that has been broken with the consumer place. So for the second year in a row, the top growth challenge for businesses is finding customers. So 47% are saying that finding customers is harder than ever, and it is their biggest challenge in the business. And this is the second year running of that. So like they're saying what worked 2 years ago is not even remotely close to what's working today. And it's business owners are finding it very hard to, I guess, change, like find what is working. And I personally think it's a fail because social media, AI, everything has made it really easy for non-experts to pose themselves as experts. And I think trust in the marketplace is so broken that we're trying to find our way out of it. And I think there's a whole topic around this of that area. But I brought this up because it's a fail. Like I really hate that trust has been broken. But it's also, I wouldn't call it a win, but I think it's a way for business owners to also say, I'm not alone. Because I think a lot of people are feeling like, why am I the only one not able to grow my customer base like I used to be able to grow my customer base? And almost half of the people that responded to this are saying this is their biggest challenge. So if you are feeling this, you're not alone.
No, you're not alone. I think it's a lot of people looking for silver bullets. And not realizing that platforms have changed, and they've changed for a long time now. None of this, there's nothing for free anymore. Okay, you can post on social all you want. You can do it, like there's nothing for free. And if you're going to get it for free, it takes a lot of work and time. And if you've listened to we had an episode around social media around how to get your awareness up and everything. And there is a way to do it where you work within the algorithm, but it's not the piece that drives sales. You're driving awareness. Those are two very different things. And so I just think there's you got to get back to the basics, back to the strategy, understand who your customer is, communicate with them where they're at. And I think, that helps with that. And a lot of people think that some of these platforms, because I have access to these tens of thousands of millions of people, somehow it's going to be, if you build it, they will come. If I post it, they will see it, etc. And that's all silver bullet talk, and none of that exists anymore. It's not there. So yeah, I think it's just a misalignment of expectations of how marketing works and what marketing actually is.
Yeah. I think a lot of this is even coming not even from trying to use social media. I think in general, the consumer buying is a much slower process than what it used to be.
Well, it's definitely fragmented too. I mean, I think that's a good point. We've got time to make decisions, and we can get things so fast through ordering through Amazon or Walmart that like going to find that local place that has it, I don't have to do that anymore. And so it does put a lot more work on, your local shops to say, we're here, like to even let people know we exist and have what you need.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's a wrap on another episode. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We know your time is valuable, and thanks for spending it with us. If you found some value in today's conversation, maybe you picked up a new tip for your business, we would love a review. So if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, it's the best place to leave reviews for us because it helps other business owners find the show and learn from you, the listener, of like, here's the cool, tip we learned, and it tells them which episodes are great to listen to. So with that, if you've got a hurdle or something you're facing, a topic you want us to explore or share our expertise on, head over to whatthebiz.com, drop us a line. We love hearing your ideas. We have done listener episodes in the past with questions. So just submit the form on the website and we'll might just make an entire episode out of your idea. But until next time, keep building, stay proactive, and we will see you on the next one.